other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Hello and welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live here on Business Talk Radio, as we live stream also on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. We have a very special edition of our program today as we welcome back Heather Dean. Heather Dean is the author of Searching for Heather Dean, My Extraordinary Career as a Celebrity Interviewer and Why I Left It. Heather is going to join us today and talk to us about the Jewish calendar and the holiest of all holidays, which is Yom Kippur. Let us bring Heather on. Heather, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon where I am, yes.
Yes. It's nice to see you again, and thank you for taking the time to talk about this special subject that's around this time of year with the Jewish holidays. And so before we begin about Yom Kippur, I wanted to just ask you to briefly share with us your transformation when you left the States in New York and then you moved to Jerusalem so that you could really focus on your religion and keeping a kosher home. Would you just share some information with us about that?
Right. So very briefly, there was certainly a time in my life where Yom Kippur was not important. None of the Jewish holidays were important except for the fun ones. So both my parents are Jewish and come all the generations back to Mount Sinai, completely knowledge of that we are Jewish. But again, the family I was raised in, we were not especially religious at all. It was fun to celebrate Hanukkah and Passover, but Yom Kippur, that's the day where everybody starved. It's called fasting for our sins. What is up with that? So that is definitely when you're not connected to your Judaism and understand even a little bit of the power of Yom Kippur and the power that is infused within each of the Jewish holidays. It is hard to get worked up and psyched up about any of it. But slowly, I did go through a very, I think, interesting, very compelling, very surprising, astonishing journey into the religion I was born into to become a fully Torah-observant Jew. And it has now come to mean so much to me that I found that for myself, I really was meant to live in the Holy Land. So here I am in Israel, and I moved to Israel almost 2 decades ago to live the dream. So for me, I can honestly say I have so much fulfillment and happiness and gratitude for my journey, and especially now that I was raised in the fantastic, great country of America, and that I get to be an American who is also Israeli here in Israel.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That does sound really spectacular that you were able to live in the States and have one experience and live in Jerusalem and have another. So my background is my grandmother on my father's side was Jewish. But I wasn't raised Jewish, and I've always been very interested in the significance of the Jewish holidays. So would you share with us when the Jewish holidays typically occur? I know that this time of year, but is that typically all the Jewish holidays, or are they throughout the year?
So the Jewish calendar is based on the lunar cycle, the cycle of the moon. So for example, that is why the holiday of Passover will always be in the spring, because the month that it takes place, which is the month of Nisan, the month that I was born in, it's always in the spring. Nisan is the first of the months. I'm not saying it's the head of the year, but anyway, it's a month that's always in the spring. The month that we're in now and just rang in with the day of Rosh Hashanah, well, that's Tishrei. Tishrei is always in this time of the year, which is as summer turns into fall. So in brief, yes, it's based on the lunar cycle. So there is a time where the planting usually occurs, There's a time where the growth usually occurs in the summer. Harvest is always in the fall. So this is around the time the harvest season is. And for anyone who has ever heard of the holiday of Sukkot, otherwise known as Sukkot, that is a harvest festival. So there's many holidays in the calendar year. Whether or not you're religious, you may have heard, everyone's heard of Hanukkah, everyone's heard of Passover. So each one has a great amount of meaning and could be deserving of its own 12-hour show. But each holiday has a very close connection to a different aspect of Jewish observance. Many of the holidays have something to do with something that happened in history, in Jewish history. So the upcoming holiday of Sukkot doesn't have so much to do with a specific date. That has more to do with the fact that the Israelites, when they left Egypt on their way to the Holy Land, they lived in little booths, also known as Sukkot. So that's not a specific day, but something that God gave us was the ability to actually dwell in huts in the desert. That's Sukkot. So that's coming up in less than 2 weeks. With Yom Kippur, that actually is a specific, it's a day that commemorates a specific event. So what it is it's a day where our teacher Moses, in Hebrew we call him Moshe Rabbeinu, but Moses, so for anyone who knows a bit about the story, so this is the one where Moses has gone up to the top of the mountain, which is Mount Sinai, to pray, plead for 40 days. I think he was up on Mount Sinai begging and pleading for the Jewish people the way that they transgressed the Creator, that they should be forgiven. And meanwhile, while he was up on the mountain, the Jews were also atoning for the things that they had transgressed for. It would take a Jewish Bible study class to understand completely what that's all about. But Yom Kippur was the pinnacle, the day that the Jews were indeed atoned for what they did wrong. Now, if you know the power of anyone who has truly forgiven you, not to make the best comparison, but just the power of forgiveness. When you are forgiven, have you ever noticed, Jacalyn, that sometimes that actually strengthens the relationship between the two?
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
In a way, even though the Jews had stepped back from how they were supposed to be observing and fulfilling their mission, they had transgressed. And yet what happens on Yom Kippur is not only does the Creator forgive the people for what they've done, which is basically worshiping a false God instead of the one true God. So actually what happens afterwards is such a celebration, because the Jews were forgiven and are forgiven every time there's ever a Yom Kippur. The Jews we're forgiven, and the relationship between us and the Creator is actually strengthened. So it sort of makes sense that the holiday that comes right after that, 4 days after Yom Kippur, is the holiday of Sukkot, which is one of the very happiest holidays on the Jewish calendar.
Sounds beautiful, and just that affirmation of forgiveness and strengthening of the relationship, I think that really is lovely. Heather, in your experience when you were in the States and you were observant and the high holidays came, what differences, if any, are there from how they're celebrated or acknowledged or recognized in the States versus in Jerusalem?
So I would say in all of Israel, what's a little bit different than if they're celebrated outside of the land of Israel. And that's anywhere. Even there's a big Jewish community in Paris. There's Jewish communities everywhere, it seems. The difference is that, first of all, the land of Israel is just more conducive. It's a spiritual fact. It's more conducive and easier for a Jew to celebrate the holidays in the land of their soul. So in the land of my soul, I have found it is so much easier. It's so much more desirable. It's in every way, the connection is so much deeper. here in Israel. It's a very hard thing to explain in words, but if you've ever been a place where you feel such a deep connection that can't be explained in words, then you're on the way to understanding what it's like for Jewish people, a Jewish person to fully embrace, even on a visit, the feeling that they have when they're in Israel. So the thing is that there are definitely a lot of religious Jews all over the world, millions, who definitely in their own way feel very connected to the holidays. So I'm not discounting that, God forbid. There may not be, and I'm only saying this because scholars of the Talmud have studied this and know this, is that it's just less easy. A Jew has to try harder to connect. It can be done, but try harder to reach, to get a certain spiritual attainment and fulfillment outside of the land of Israel. So practically speaking, it's very easy to observe Jewish holidays and to keep kosher in Israel because kosher food is everywhere. There is also non-kosher food, unfortunately, being sold in a lot of places, but it's just so much easier. So much there's any establishment that wants to make money will serve kosher food because they definitely have a consumer base here in Israel. Now, the other thing is that even for non-religious, completely unaffiliated Jewish people who live in Israel, because it's always up to a person's choice, always, if they're going to be Torah observant or not. It is still in the air. So even advertisements in the media, you always know when the holiday of Shavuot is coming up because a lot of dairy products are consumed on that holiday. So just every kind of cheese company, milk company, they have lots of sales and recipes come out, are flying all over the place. So it's just like, you know, in America, a lot of Jews are like, Shavuot, what is that? But it's a serious, serious holiday, one of the major ones. So in Israel, you know when that's coming up. You know when it's Shabbat, because it's just in the air. Everyone's in a rush to get their things done before Shabbat, to buy flowers for Shabbat at the end of every week. It's just one of those things that it's already part of the culture. Even if a person is not religious, it's still part of the culture. That you don't see so much in the United States. You might see, you might see in your local supermarket that there's a section of food that's specifically for the holiday of Passover. And growing up, I was wondering, what is that? What does kosher for Passover mean? How is it like? Is it a different kind of kosher than, I didn't even care actually, but there is a certain kind of kosher for Passover, kosher for the rest of the year. It's one of those things that if you want to talk about that, that's again a different discussion. But I'm just saying culturally and spiritually, there definitely are differences.
It sounds like to me that this time of year, if you live in Israel and if you are an observant Jew, that it's exciting, that it's like a great time of year that you look forward to and you have this connection with other people. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the thing also that about this time of year is there's definitely the connection. You know, everyone around Rosh Hashanah time wishes one another a happy New Year. With Yom Kippur, maybe I'll explain later why it's not only one of the holiest days of the year, but it's one of the happiest. But as far as other people concerned, so this is that time of year that's between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of soul searching, literally, that people do at this time of year, that Jews do at this time of year, and not only searching within themselves and thinking about how they can improve in different areas, maybe coming up with a plan how to improve in this or that area. It's also a very important time where if we look back on the year and think of how we may have done something wrong to this person or those people, or to any number of situations, it's a time to make amends. Anyone who knows about the 12 steps, there's a step about making amends. So it's not as though that's anything that comes from outer space. This is a real thing where we make amends because we do want to start the new year right. We want the gift of a good year, but not only for the benefit of hopefully having a good year and being forgiven, but just because it's good for us. So I can give you an example. If a person maybe said something that was really not nice. Maybe a person stepped on a bus and they saw a neighbor and started criticizing that neighbor openly with other people hearing them. So that causes a lot of embarrassment. That's a very hard thing to just take that back, because now not only have you said something not nice and wrong and embarrass them in front of other people, you know, how are you going to go around and tell all these other people, oh, I really shouldn't have said that to my friend Betty. Oh no, you know, that's a very, you know, it's a really hard one to correct. But you can go during this week or any time of year really, but this is a very auspicious time to go to your friend Betty and say, listen, I got to tell you something that's hard for me to say. But I remember that time that I stepped on the bus, there you were, and I unfairly yelled at you. And I know it caused you a lot of embarrassment. And I really, really am so sorry for what I did. It was wrong. And then Betty should forgive you, hopefully will. You just need, but it's your job to make that apology to how you may have wronged somebody. There's so many different kinds of amends that we can make, whether it's between us and someone else. Sometimes we have to correct things that don't involve other people, but we have to correct them within ourselves. So this is that time where maybe people do resolve to go on that diet, or to not drink before 5 o'clock, or at all, or whatever it is. Like, this is the time where we really try to, even if we aren't perfect, to at least come up with a plan.
I like that. The plan means everything. You have to put it into action to get the results. So we need to take a break and hear some of our messages from our sponsors. And when we come back, let's talk about Yom Kippur and why it is the holiest and happiest holiday. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with Heather Dean here on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our Ministry Alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAP partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAP partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
Make a bold statement by wearing a custom jewelry design from Margie Cedrone, Artisan Jeweler, located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey. Telephone number 215-384-7155. Margie Cedrone is an artisan jeweler who has been a permanent fixture on the renowned Jewelers Row in Center City, Philadelphia since 1988. Starting her business in 1982, all of Margie's designs are individually handmade as well as custom design. She is one of the only jewelers left in the area who still crafts the finest tailor-made diamond jewelry, whether it's a statement piece or an everyday item. In addition to her one-of-a-kind designs, she specializes in pearl stringing and bead jewelry repairs. Margie Cedrone Jewelry pairs nearly 30 years of experience with the building of lifelong client relationships. Dr. Jacalyn has been a client and friend of Margie Cedrone for many, many years. Each week during my show, Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live on Business Talk Radio, I will be featuring one of the beautiful pieces of jewelry that Margie custom made for me. I urge you to contact Margie through her website, margiecedronejewelry.com. Wait no longer to make your own bold statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is. The most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Welcome back to our program, Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live here on Business Talk Radio and also live streaming on Facebook and YouTube. We have Heather Dean joining us again. It's always a pleasure to see you, and especially during the special time of year of the high holidays. And so we were going to focus on Yom Kippur and the significance and why it's the happiest and holiest holiday of the year.
Right. So what is so happy about Yom Kippur? Well, how many times in life do we wish we had a reset button, a life reset button, or even just a situational reset button? So a loose term to think of what Yom Kippur is that it's God's reset button. So if we consider how each one of us is a creation from the Creator, So if you think about it deeply, here we are in whatever year we're in, and think about whatever year we were born in. So none of this is coincidence. You're born in exactly the year you're supposed to be born in, and experience everything that has come your way so far. And at this very moment, this is exactly what is supposed to be going on for you in this very moment. In fact, your whole life, there is a mission. Maybe you have many missions in life, many things you need to accomplish, things you need to do, people you need to meet and connect with. The Creator has many things in store for each one of us, and hopefully we have a good, long life. The goal is that every day should be good and every day should be purposeful, because we are here for a purpose. So this is one of the reasons why we need a reset button with the Creator. And once a year is great. This is how He designed it as well. So to have that reset button where we take a day, Jews everywhere in the world, and it's true, we are fasting all day. No eating, no drinking. There are certain things we just don't indulge in for the day, not for punishment, but because there's other things we're supposed to be focusing on that aren't about eating and drinking and other creature comforts that we take into consideration. It's a day where we actually focus on ourselves, our deeds, the kind of year we've had, and what we're going to do to rectify and make a great year for ourselves with the help of the Creator.
That sounds incredible, to have a life reset button, or a situational reset button. That is a true gift.
Yes, and it could mean that the day after Yom Kippur, you might still be in that relationship, or the relationship may still be like that, or your employment, or God forbid, unemployment situation, whatever. Now, the situations may not, there may not be, there probably won't be a magic wand that resets the situation, but it's resetting how you view it. And in a way, you may see that turn of events will go in your favor because of how you've connected to what's going on in your life.
It almost sounds like you are given this incredible opportunity to look at your life, look at your relationship with the Creator, look at your relationship with other people, and then act upon a plan. But you have to carry it out yourself.
Yes, and of course, we do have to do what we are capable of doing. We're not capable of everything, but what we are capable of, and we have to ask for help from the boss. We have to ask for help because we aren't expected to carry out everything. I mean, we do need help for certain situations, certain opportunities to present themselves.
And Heather, what is it like in Israel or Jerusalem in terms of COVID and worship? Because here in the States, every state in the United States, or every state's different here. So what about over there?
Okay, so what has happened in Israel is the government did decide the week before Rosh Hashanah. When was that on the regular calendar? It was about a week ago. The decision was not a week ago, but what was decided that starting with Rosh Hashanah, which was actually on Friday of last week, Friday afternoon at some point, was called the Seger, which in English is the lockdowns. So we're back into lockdown mode, which we had been freed up from that for a long time. Like stores and shops and restaurants were opening up. Restaurants in some limited capacity, but things were starting to get back to normal. But then the cases of COVID and the government was really not happy with what kind of numbers were being presenting themselves. Not everybody was in favor of locking the country back down, which also means closing synagogues. In fact, it was on the political realm, it was such an incendiary decision that the minister of the Department of Health, resigned, and he'd been there for a very long time. He's a religious Jew, and he said this is, so to speak, this is not good, that even synagogues can't have services, even, so to a limited degree, just some worshipers. That was, so it's controversial, but a lot of government actions are controversial. But the thing is that there's a very special prayer book that you can get in any language. I use it in English. I mean, I do know several of the prayers in Hebrew, but with Yom Kippur, there's many that I just need to go to the English side of my Hebrew English prayer book. So there's a prayer book for Yom Kippur called the Yom Kippur Machzor, and a lot of us will be just using our Yom Kippur Machzor, our Yom Kippur prayer book from home instead of in the synagogue.
And so it's just looking at prayer in a different way, but it sounds like it's still an incredible day, and you get a perspective to do something different in terms of not going to the synagogue, but prayer at home.
Right. You nailed it.
So, Heather, I'd love for you to talk to us about your podcast, because I think that ties in really, and give our viewers and listeners some information about how they can actually tune in to listen to you.
Okay. So the podcast that I have been producing since 2017, so now I guess we're going to be going into our 4th year. That's crazy. We're going in. We've already gone into our 4th year. I have to send the next edition to my editor-in-chief now that I think about it.
Congratulations.
Dr. Sukkot, yeah, thank you. So the name of the podcast is called At Home in Jerusalem. And At Home in Jerusalem with Heather Dean is you can find it on SoundCloud, that's for sure. But it's a podcast that my production company produces for aish.com, AISH.com. Aish.com is one of the largest, if not the largest, website devoted to Jewish content, authentic Jewish content. So mine is their one regular podcast. So with Yom Kippur, what I would suggest is you can do a search on the word Heather Dean, and then you'll see in the archive that there's more than one podcast that I've already produced on the topic of Yom Kippur. Now, this is a podcast, you should know, where I am almost never speaking. It's a podcast where I'm always interviewing a different expert about some aspect of Jewish life. So some weeks we're talking about Jewish marriage, or some weeks we're talking about kosher recipes, or others different holidays. So yes, there are some editions of At Home in Jerusalem where we're talking about the significance of Yom Kippur. So that is At Home in Jerusalem.
And I'm actually showing your website if people want to go there and learn more about you. And I've actually listened to some of your podcasts, and you are, of course, an expert interviewer. It's very interesting. So I highly suggest that our audience goes and checks that out. So we're actually at the end of our program. And Heather, I'm wondering, what words of wisdom would you like to leave us with today?
So the words of wisdom, let's see, because it wouldn't be my words. The wise words I look to are always in the Torah. So it has been asked of one of our great sages, Hillel, how would he sum up the Torah if a person was standing on one foot? How do you sum up the Torah? So it's a good thing to have in mind for Yom Kippur especially. And what he is quoted as saying is that whatever is hateful to you, whatever is despicable to you, don't do that to your friend, right? So don't use your friend's things without their permission. Don't spread false gossip or any kind of gossip about your friends or your spouses or your in-laws or whatever it is. Whatever is wrong, don't do that. Pause, think, try to do good in the world.
I love that. That has such significance. I just wanted to share, I started a meditation teacher training certification course on Monday, every Monday night. And we were learning about the 4 noble truths. And a lot of what you just said, obviously, is is incorporated in that. And so what I try to share with people is to be kind to one another, not to judge, and to try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. And many times when people are angry, it's because they're hurt or they don't understand or they're feeling insecure. And so when you cross into getting into your own lane, which I think is such a great place to be, it's a lot of work, but once you're in your own lane, you look at things differently and you can see that other people are suffering and struggling and angry about it. And so let us just love one another, forgive one another. And I think the fact that the high holidays are here and you really explained so well the significance of it, and to wish everyone a happy new year. I think it's just been great having you on the program, and I'm always wanting to hear more and more from you.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. Definitely. Thank you.
All right. Well, good luck to you in Jerusalem. I will be in touch. Happy New Year and stay well. So that is a wrap for our program today here on Business Talk Radio Live and also on YouTube and Facebook. Stay with us. You will hear more on Business Talk Radio right after this.
RVN TV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN TV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.